What's up, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker. And today, I'm in my parents' basement.
I was gonna say, I wanted to say what's the deal with the like bunker like setting?
Yes.
But
So
it's another fully remote one. You're in Illinois, right?
I am in Illinois. I'm in Chicago. And actually, Joe, our guest, well, you and I share the same hometown, which is fantastic. But I came home this morning. My mom, who listens to this show, so shout out to my mom, retired from her career. And we are having a retirement party tonight. So we drove home this morning. And I promise you guys, like everything's okay down here. There is light, and my computer is just not that good, so it's not picking it up. So I look like I'm in trouble, and I'm not. So I just want to be, I'm not
Just
blinking
like
twice. We're good. Yes.
clap twice if you're in serious danger.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes. I am in okay lighting
You're good to
and our
go. Yeah, you
normal
all look
setup.
great.
Yeah,
By the
I'm
way.
good to
Everyone
go.
else looks great. You guys look wonderful, and I'm just over here, pretending like I've done this before.
But we do have an amazing guest on there today on with the show today. Jim and I obviously both went to Marquette University, who are currently in the top 10. Are we number 4 right now
For number
still?
number four,
Yep.
Number
as of
4
this
still.
moment, as of this
Okay.
this moment on Friday, we don't know what's going to happen on
Yes.
Monday.
Yeah. By the time you see this, we may not be 4, but I'm hoping
We
we
may
are.
be two.
Uh
We may be three.
I, I
That
would
could
be okay with that.
absolutely.
So we of course, as basketball fans, are very excited, especially heading into March. Jim, do you feel like this is the year? I kind of feel like this is the year that we hit the Final Four. I don't want to jinx it.
Alan, you can't just say things like that. But
I would
but
like us to do well
yes,
in the month of March, but
that's correct. And maybe play
in
all the
or
way into
around a
April.
tournament.
And Shaka Smart's birthday is like April 4th, and there's a big
Yeah.
night on April. So things can happen. But moral of the story, we're excited to be here. We're gonna get into all the Marquette basketball talk. So if you're not a basketball fan, this may not be the show for you. No, I'm kidding. There's plenty to
No,
talk about.
stay.
But
Please
yeah,
stay.
please stick around. This is episode 75, something like that. So we're pumped that you're all here. And Alan and I usually talk about that before we get on the show, but we forgot to. So this is me mentioning it. But we'll find out what the story is there. And Alan, do that.
It is 76, and
Wonderful.
but it's all right because today we have, you know what, it would have been so good if this was episode 77.
I know
Uh
that's okay. That's okay. Well, let's move on. We have a great guest. His name is Joe Chapman, and Joe is the president and founder of the Chapman Basketball Academies here in Wisconsin. And Joe, welcome to Hustling Sideways.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that two claps like you're in trouble, or is that
oh, yeah.
I
Jim,
was
no, you
several
gotta
claps. Yeah, that was send help, SOS.
thank you
That's
guys?
um yeah, absolutely. So of course, Marquette alum and part of a pretty successful team, I would say.
Yeah.
um, Tell us a little bit kind of about your background. And before this, I didn't know you and Jim shared a hometown. Are you
You
guys
sure
close
do.
right now? Yeah, you're both
We might
Chicago.
not
Yeah.
be far from each other. I don't know. Where are you calling in from, Joe?
I'm calling in. I live in Port Washington, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's
So,
right. But yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so I'm
So you're
more
actually closer to where Jim lives now
That's
than where he is currently. Yeah.
exactly. So, Joe, let's hear where you're from, and then moral of the story is we do share the same upbringing in terms of hometown.
yeah, yeah. I'm from, I was born in the south side of Chicago. First 7 years I lived in Chicago. Then I moved to the south suburbs, Chicago Heights, moved there for a few years. Then I moved to Sauk Village, Illinois. Those are my upbringings in Chicago Heights, Sauk Village, Fort Heights. Those are the areas that I lived in when I was in Illinois.
Awesome. So we've had Jarrell on this show, who's a big White Sox fan. Are you? What's is that same for you?
Yeah, I,
Good.
ironically enough, WGN, as you know, Illinois had a lot of Cubs games.
Mhm.
So the White Sox was so close to where I lived. Across the street from there, the White Sox Stadium used to be some housing projects called the Robert Taylor Homes, and a lot of
Mhm.
my members lived there. So I was always around the Sox Stadium, but I kind of grew up a Cubs fan just because they were always on TV. And it seemed so far away from where I live, which it wasn't. But from a kid from the inner city of Chicago, that seemed like, wow, that's Wrigley. That just
Yeah.
seems like the Sox is the Sox, but Wrigley just got a kind of feel to it, a mystique about it. That a lot of us growing up, it's just a mystique of the Wrigley Field.
Right.
For sure.
I could smell the beer and the popcorn from here. It's a stench. Yeah. No, that's great. So obviously you had that, growing up in Illinois and Chicago, and I am from the South Side of Chicago originally. So it's a beautiful thing. But when
Yep.
did you pick up a basketball? When did that become a thing for you?
Yeah, I would say around that 1990, 91 when the Bulls was just taking off. That was my first memories. I remember first vivid memory of just loving the game was when the Bulls lost the first game against the Lakers in the finals. And I just remember crying like crazy, like we lost. And everyone's looking like it's only game one. But as an 8, 9 year old, you don't know, it's just like we lost. And that's like my first memory of just growing up in the 80s, 90s eras with the Bulls and Pippen and Jordan and those guys dominating. That's what made me kind of love the game and pick up the game. I think everyone, wanted to at that time be a part of something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Alan still cries when the Bucks lose games, so you guys have that in common, at least.
He's been crying a lot lately.
I was gonna say I didn't say it, but this last 10 games or so has not been going well.
Rough going.
I am curious to ask, since you got to see kind of the rise of Michael Jordan, I only got to see one game that Jordan was actually like to be in the arena when Jordan was playing. Did you ever have the opportunity growing up to experience that kind of magic? Because I think about that with the Bucks, thinking about Giannis
Yeah.
now and being like, I'm watching one of the best players in the world play in my hometown, kind of thing. Were you
Yeah.
ever fortunate enough to have that experience of seeing Michael in the United Center?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't have the means to get the games and things like that. But I watched every single game, and I was at the celebrations in Grant Park. I did all of those things that I can get to that was kind of cheaper and free. I would go to games after the game, just to
Okay.
speak of the game that was going on, and kind of like that Deer District that we have now. Chicago Stadium had a little bit of that before we moved to United Center. So as a kid growing up, you didn't really get a chance to see him live play, but I saw him, a few times playing in different gyms, and that mystique is just different on its own. But never got a chance to, catch a game though.
For sure.
Yeah.
Was there any particular player, obviously, Michael, but like, was there any other player that really stood out to you that made you think like, man, this is something I want to do. I want to follow in that guy's footsteps and be like that guy. Not
Yeah,
like Mike, but like
it
somebody
was a lot.
else.
Yeah, it was a lot. I'm a historian of the game. I love it from the 50s on. I just love the game of basketball, so I just studied the game a lot. I knew a lot of people couldn't beat Jordan, but Pippen was the player that I really liked because he did a little bit of everything. He guarded the ball. He was a team player. He get you 20 points, 8 rebounds, 8 blocks. He did a little bit of. And then from a non-athletic point of view, Larry Bird, he was just a mistake where a guy who barely can move and jump, scored 30, 35 and talks the most trash. So that's the type of guy I wanted to, model my game after, guys like that. And Magic Johnson, those are the three outside of Jordan that I kind
For
of
sure.
mastered.
Okay.
Really good picks. Those are really good picks. I like that. My dad would have some issues with the bird. Couldn't move, couldn't jump. It's true though. That dude just
Yeah.
made buckets. Like
Yeah, he was
that's
Larry Legend, man.
it's
That was
incredible.
his thing.
It was
Yeah.
like unbelievable to watch him. Like highlights now. I'm like, this guy really does not look like your typical athlete, and he hits everything. Nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like this version of maybe like a Luka.
Yeah.
That's the same type of version, slow, methodical. They spots, can't really stop him. Talks a lot of trash, and is this perfect? Those are the type of players you admire from afar.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, Joe, when did you realize that you were good at basketball? I mean, I know for every kid picking up a ball, I'm not good. I played for a long time, but it was pretty clear it wasn't my thing. When did you start like this is something maybe I could really actually pursue?
Yeah, it was a couple instances. Sixth grade, we didn't have a middle school team. Like a lot of kids have sixth or eighth grade middle school team. We had like a rec team. We go to the rec and have different teams there. So I remember sixth grade, I was wearing some Grant Hills. I remember when those Filas came out. So the black and red Filas, I had those. And I had like 25 points, a lot of threes. And I was just like, man, I feel like I'm better than a lot of kids out here. So you just got that feeling of, especially when you're young, when you have good games and good moments, you kind of go back to those moments. And you go from there, and you beating your peers in gym class, recess, intramurals, and you kind of stacking up there. The second point was in eighth grade. I tore my ACL, MCL, and broke my kneecap
Oof.
in eighth grade playing flag football at recess. So it took me a while to come back. And then when it in the eighth grade, I broke my leg in October of that year. And end of the season, we had teachers versus students game. And first time playing in a long time. Um, and mystique of the game, I had Larry Bird posters instead of Jordan posters now, just so because I knew I wasn't be as athletic as I was. So, we had that game, and I must have had 40, 50 points against the teachers, and everyone's just going nuts. And at the end of it, we got to get on the bus to go back home, and everyone's asking for my autograph. So all the kids were like, oh, "Give me your
It's got
autograph."
to be such a cool feeling though to be like, oh, I got people that are like fans now.
Right, that's your peers. That's different,
Yeah.
So that was a cool moment for me. And then my sophomore year, I hit a famous tip to go downstate. Bloom, we were playing Brother Rice.
Mhm.
I made a tip to get downstate. We were the underdog. They lost 1 or 2 games. We were like 17-12, and we made a great run. Got moved up as a sophomore to varsity. I made a great tip. And then, I just knew that next day on the bus, everyone was standing up, clapping for me. And those moments, you're like, okay, I got it. And when you feel that moment as a young player, you want to keep it.
That's
And it kind of motivates. Once you're in that limelight and you get the notoriety, you get the newspapers, it helps you keep working harder and harder.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would say, Joe, that Brother Rice was actually my rival. I went to St. Lawrence, so that
Oh,
that that rings true to me. I appreciate your service on that tipping. That's
yeah,
great.
So I think, it goes without saying there are talented kids everywhere when it comes to basketball. There are kids probably, generational talents that play on playgrounds and play, middle
yep,
school ball, high school ball, whatever it is. Um, a small percentage of those kids actually make it into college, and even smaller make it to the professional ranks.
yep,
So what was kind of what pushed you towards getting the college ball? How did you kind of get discovered?
yep.
Was it AAU? Like, what was kind of the process for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Obviously, we know 1% of people play on the college level, especially the D1, the D2, D3. If you add all three, it's 3% of people that play that far. So, my sophomore year, like I just mentioned, we went to state, and going through the process of beating really good teams. We beat Joliet Township, who had Roger Powell. He was going to Illinois. Kevin Bernard, he was at Lincoln Way. And Kevin Bernard was going to Marquette. And I was a sophomore, he was a senior, and I guarded him the whole game, pretty much shut him down. We beat them. And the Marquette coaches was there. So they got a chance to see me play as a sophomore. That was the first letter that I got going into my junior year. They came to a lot of my games between AAU and my high school. They were just at everything. And,
Mhm.
once you get that first letter and that first interest, Coach Tom Crean, he was a coach at the time.
Mhm.
He very interested in what I did and what I did as a player. My high school's all-time leading scorer, but he didn't necessarily wanted me for that. I shot 50% from three. I guarded the best players. I took charges. I dove on the floor for loose balls. And that was what he saw in me. Obviously, as a 16, 17-year-old, you don't really see that yet.
Hmm.
But they see things in you that they're going to prepare you to be later, especially going into a program like Marquette, who lost the year before to Tulsa. They didn't have a lot of great shooting at the moment. So adding, myself and Novak, guys who can shoot the ball on a perimeter, go with Diener and Wade, who were great players who needed more role players who can shoot. That was our role. But yeah, that's how it got started with me as a sophomore, going into my junior year. Got recruited by other big schools, but Marquette was the first school who offered me, and and it was 4 or 5 different Chicago players on the team at the time.
Okay.
That's
I have to ask because Jim and I will never know this feeling. As a player, when do you know that there are coaches in the crowd? Like, can you kind of pick them out? Obviously, like when you see the same people over and over, they probably reach out to you, but like,
Yeah.
do you feel that as a player, and what is that pressure like for you?
Yes, you feel it as a player. You look for it. You looking to see if there are coaches there. It's a little different dynamic than now, where social media plays a big part. 20 years ago, it was handwritten letters and text messages saying we'll be at your games and stuff like that. So when you do see coaches, especially at your AAU games, you got to turn it up a notch because you see 10, 15, 20 coaches there, and they looking for any little thing to not recruit you. So you be on your game, not about your points and things like that. Just more so your energy, your body language, your competitive drive. Are you out there being, the right type of player they're looking for their program?
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
That's so. What's it like arriving on campus day one with an instilled team that you're about? Like, did you feel quickly that it was a special team? Did it take a little while? Were you walk up? Like, what was all the emotions like, kind of coming in there, knowing who you were about to join?
Yeah, joining a group like that, they were already kind of driven.
Yeah.
It was their first time going to the tournament the year before, and they were a higher seed going against Tulsa, and they lost. So that pressure was coming back with D Wade was coming back. Diener now a full-time starter. Robert Jackson, now being a player, he was a transfer player, so he didn't play the year before. He
Mhm.
has Scott Merritt coming into his own. Todd Townsend, Terry Sanders. So all these guys were really upperclassmen. They were ready to win. They already took the bumps and bruises from Green, and the culture was already there. So now it was about it's go time to win. And so you felt that pressure right away of this is not a we're way to your junior, to build a program. Like this is the moment that the program was waiting for, and it was our turn to help them get over the hump. So that the first couple workouts, the first couple open gyms, I'm a guy who takes charges and loose balls, and I'm taking charges in the pickup, and guys are running me over. Travis ran me over a few times. Like, yeah, I like this, but we're not taking charges in open gym, but we like your intent, But but you felt that intensity, guys. They wanted to win, and you can feel it right away.
Yeah, that's
For
awesome. And I
sure.
know that year started off like not. I think a lot of people forget that you guys like lost some games, and I mean,
Oh,
some close ones. I feel like a turning point was it the Louisville game? You were down by
yeah,
like 15, 16 the first half,
yeah,
and then won on the road. I remember, like, did that feel like a kind of like maybe we have something here?
yeah. We lost a couple early games.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, at Dayton. And we were still trying to find our niche as a team.
Mhm.
D Wade was coming into his own. Travis was coming to his own as a full-time starter. And Robert, who was a all SEC player, where he came from, was trying to find his niche for a team. So we're all trying to figure out, our roles was going to be. When we get down 19 in Freedom Hall, that place is just crazy. They dark the lights out in the background and they only have it on the court. You hear some of the craziest stuff coming out those fans' mouth. um, you can imagine, Crean and Patino, they didn't really like each other, and
Oh no.
they were fiery at it. So, you get down 19 and you claw your way back. You leave out of that place with a W. That turned our whole season around.
Yeah.
And then honestly, we got on a group chat together probably around 4 years ago because it was on Instant Classic, ESPN Classic, and that made the whole group come together, and we've been on a group chain since then.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously, you guys had an incredible year, and you did all that, and that happened. One wonderful memory. Now let's talk a little bit about after college, right? So you've graduated. You've obviously had an incredible tenure at Marquette. And you started playing overseas. Was that the plan the whole time, or
Yeah,
what was your goal
yeah.
graduating?
Obviously, I wanted to play. I wanted to play as long as I could,
Mm.
and playing overseas. I did my 4 years at Marquette. Left the all-time leaders in games played. Me and
Damn right.
Novak. Uh, so we left a legacy there. We got back to the tournament our last year with the three amigos.
Mm.
And they did great for us, and we left it the way we found it, and that's all you want, to leave a culture. And once there, I played 11 years overseas, and it was amazing. Started in South America. I had to work my way up because I was a role player at Marquette, averaged about 7, 8 points. So
Mm.
now it was about scoring again. So I went to South America, which was pretty cool. Landing spot for me because it was beautiful countries. I was in first spot was in Colombia, Bogota, and obviously you hear different things about these countries. So and when you get there, it's just like any state that you go to. You know where to go, you know where not to go. It's just everywhere you go. It's like that. Chicago, I know where the hell I'm not going. I know where so it was the same, there. And the things you learn from school, it kind of helps you. On a flight to Bogota, there was no one speaking English. This flight attendant, everyone's speaking in Spanish. So you got to start to pick up the things you learn from college, start to talk to different people, start to, get out of your comfort zone. Now you're 20. I graduated at 20. So as a 20-year-old, you're all alone now in the country. So you're trying to pick up different things, and I think between Marquette and my tenure overseas, it helped me become who I was going to become later. But those early years overseas, it was a lot of traveling. I saw 18 countries in 11 years.
Wow.
I played in 7 different countries, won 4 MVPs, 9 championships. So my tenure over there was beautiful, and from South America to Europe to Asia, I kind of saw a lot of different spots.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is wild. I think that, you know, I think a lot of athletes, especially when they make it to the college level, uh, kind of they've kind of grown up being one of the better players and one of the,
Yeah,
maybe let's say I don't want to say like treated differently, but you're
yeah,
aware that you're a
yep,
standout, right?
yep, yep,
Growing up and playing in a lot of places that you probably played in up to Marquette, and then when you get to somewhere like Colombia or wherever you
yep.
played overseas, that when you land in a new country, the culture is entirely different, and you're just one of the guys. Like, what
Yep.
is the biggest culture shock for you as a player? And do you sense that, like, I mean, of course, you still have a feeling that you're good, but do you
Mm.
feel like, okay, now I have to adjust, or now I have to work a little harder because I'm not maybe surrounded by the same amount of talent or the same amount
Yeah.
of, like, it's just a harder battle for you to make it work?
Yeah, it is. And every stop was different. In South America, they wanted you to score more. So you go back to your high school days and you dwarf it into what you learned in college. And now you're a professional. In high school, I averaged 22, 23 points a game. So that's going to be easy for me to score. That's what I love to do. So you go back and you do that, be a scorer. You go to Europe, they want you to be a part of the team. No one averages more than 18, but no one averages less than 11. So you play in a system where everyone's moving, sharing the ball, and that's good because that's more so what college is like. And when I played in South in Asia, it was a little bit of both. They want you to score, they want you to be a part of the team. So every stop was different, but it goes back to how you was coached. By the time any scenario that you threw me in, it was going to be easy, just because he helped us grow. He gave us, so much, but he also put you outside of your comfort zone and made you grow as a person and then a player second. So it didn't matter where I went, it was going to be easier than what I just left from Marquette.
That's a great feeling too. I love that. And so like, and one thing, just not to switch gears, but a way that I think you really, kind of came on a national level was TBT, and
Yeah,
I personally miss it now. I thought that was an incredible thing. How
yeah,
did that come together? How did, like, generally, I'm sure there was so much behind the scenes. Alan and I and our audience have no idea about it, but like, what a gift every summer that was to have that. And you were a critical part of doing it. And for those that don't know, on the listening here, the basketball tournament, which actually one of our first guests was, oh my goodness, Alan, what is his name? Elam.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
he
we had
created the Elam ending.
yeah, we had Dr. Elam on here, who was the Elam ending maker, and so that tournament has been an incredible part of our lives and so much fun. But tell us about that, Joe. What was that like to form that?
Yeah, it started probably around 10 years ago now, 11 years ago. So I was still playing at the time. And Dan Fitzgerald, he wanted to do this. Travis Diener, he was on staff at Marquette. And Wes was in the NBA.
Mhm.
And we came together and said, all right, what we want to do here. This is a pretty cool thing that's going on. We missed the first year. We saw, I think Notre Dame won like 500,000 that first year.
Can't let
And we
that happen, man.
yeah. All right, if they're doing stuff like this, we got a lot of us who are still playing right now who are overseas. Let's start to figure out what we're going to do. So the first 2, 3, 4 years, I was a player.
Mhm.
And Wes was the coach, and Travis was the assistant coach, and Dan was the GM.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every year we tried to formulate groups that worked. And as a player, I was, playing a lot. I started some games. I came off the bench. But as a professional, you kind of see which people work well together.
Yes.
So trying to mesh all that talent. And now these guys are adults. They're, some are star players overseas or ex NBA players and big egos. So trying to manage egos is not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And during our first couple years, we'll always get to like the Elite Eight
Yeah.
and things like that. And we just crumbled because everyone wanted the ball. We didn't have a system where everyone kind of touched the ball. So it became more isolation. We had great isolation players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when the time to, get down to it, everyone was just watching guys just try to go to work. And sometimes on that level, that can help you and it can hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
and it hurt us the first couple years that we did it. Um, I believe I took over 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and I was coaching, AAU at the time. And when we lost in New York to Ohio State. I think it was in the Elite Eight. And I knew that was my last time playing. I just retired. And, some of the guys were like, hey, Joe, you want to coach us next year? Because they know what I was doing with Chapman Basketball Academy. They know I'm coaching year round. So they was like, well, let's do this if this is what you want to do. So I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I'm in. So that year we built a roster, with Marquette players mainly, but it was a couple other guys we started mixing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Elgin Cook and different guys like that who was from Milwaukee but didn't play for Marquette. So I implemented a system where everyone touches the ball. We got to have a motion offense where everyone touches the ball, quick hitters, set plays, managing egos. So that first year we went to the Final Four. We lost in Baltimore to overseas elite.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then just losing that moment with that group, we felt like, okay, we can keep building on this group and add little pieces here and there. The following year was our best year. Still to this day, I think that was the best year that we had. That was the $2 million year. Um, and at that point, that was year 7 that we did it continuously. So all my older guys were getting older every year, older. So, but the buy-in wasn't happening up top mentally.
Mhm.
Their body's still thinking, they're the star players. So, me as a coach, as a peer, this is where I took off coaching the most. I think that year was the hardest year for me because a lot of guys were getting older and I was still stuck being their friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because a lot of them, had better careers than me, all-time leading scorers at Marquette. So you're trying to manage all of that ego and still win a game. And we end up losing to Ohio State in the finals that year for $2 million. And then
Yeah.
just to look in everybody's eyes in that locker room and the confetti coming down when you lost the game. And it's just like, oh, yeah, this is our moment. Because it happens in every sport that you lose, then you come back and it's like, yep, we're going to win it this year. So I following year we were going to win it. And it just so happened to be the bubble year
Uh-huh.
where we were kind of forced to be together for 21 straight days in the bubble. Um, we just hung out all the time. We were on the same floor in a hotel where, guys are next door to each other. You're hanging out, playing video games, drinking beer, Instacart wine. You're just having a good time because you couldn't fraternize with any other team. We practiced every day. We kind of talked about what happened last year. We just felt like this was the year, and when it all came together like that, it was pretty cool for us.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
remember with Travis hitting the shot at the end. And we were all locked
Yeah.
in. It was in the middle
Yeah,
of
a lot of people don't know he predetermined that we didn't know the ball was going to go to him, but he went down the sideline. He was like, "Are you fuckers ready to win $1,000?" And we all looking at each other like, "What?" And so he got the ball and he made it, and
Yeah.
like
That's
crazy.
so funny. I love it.
That's Travis for
So
you.
yeah, I gotta ask though, as a coach, and we'll talk about the Chapman Basketball Academy after this, but as a
Yeah.
coach, what's the most intimidating moment when you have to tell an NBA player or a former NBA player, like, yo, we gotta check you. You know what I mean? Like we gotta,
Yeah.
we gotta it's a team game.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest. That was the hardest part for me, which made me a great coach. Now
Yeah.
was not caring what other people thought. When you start caring too much about the feelings of the players, you kind of lose sight of trying to win the game.
Mhm.
Because you're trying to manage the game and not the egos of the players. So for me, losing that final helped me become the coach that I am today, because you had to learn a lot about yourself. You had to not care so much about what people are saying about you, and you just had to go out there and do the best that you can of trying to win the game.
I love
For
it. And
sure.
that's such a critical lesson for folks who are
Yes,
trying to do their own thing is
correct.
people are going to doubt the heck out of you. We've all had that,
Yep.
but if it don't care. And it's easier said than done. I mean, it took me years to learn this and I'm still figuring it out. But if you feel passionate about something, if you feel like you're going to grow from it, then do it. Like
Yeah.
don't worry about whatever happens. I think that's great. So let's transition, Joe, into
Yep.
into your coaching and into the basketball academy. Tell us about the genesis of that and where it's at now and all the great work that you've done.
Yeah, it kind of started in that 2017, 2018 year. To be honest with you, it was more so me. Every time that I came home from overseas, I worked the Marquette camps.
Yeah.
I did those camps the 4 years that I was a player, and then 10 years following that, I always came home and I worked the camps. And it was me formulating a plan of how to run camps, how to interact with kids, how to interact with parents. Um, so by doing that, in 2017 when I retired, I had a plan. I was working out. She graduated last year, Chloe Murata. She was my first client.
So
And she was a sophomore in high school. So when I come home in the summer, I work her out at her house. She has a hoop at home. So I worked her out, and at that moment, she was the best player in the state.
mhm.
So all the girls players on her team started wanting to work out with me. Um, and I was like, okay, I did 11 years overseas. I was thinking about going back. A lot of us who played so long, like we talked about since fourth grade, fifth grade, you play that long, you think that's who you are as a basketball player.
Mhm.
And most of us struggle after that, knowing who we are as people, because
Mm.
we've been molded so long to be the best we can in our craft.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so at that moment, I wanted to continue to play. So I was going into my 12th year. I didn't care. I wanted to. I don't care what the money I was making. I wanted to keep playing. And that's that. Like we talked about in coaching, that's that side of it. Like your mind is continue to tell you, but your body's like, I don't know, dude. So I was going to go play in December of 2017, and at that moment, I had about 30 to 35 clients. And I was going to be making just about the same amount of money or a little bit more if I stayed that I was going to do with if I was overseas. So we just decided, me and my wife, we decided, let's just go full in on this training thing and see where we can go from there.
Yeah.
And that kind of how it started. 2018 was the year we started our AAU program. 2017, I did all of the building up to, my clientele. getting younger kids to get influenced by what me and Chloe was doing. And that's how it kind of got started.
Wow.
That's
That
awesome.
is awesome. Yeah. And I mean, just to think about like a career in basketball can, nothing is promised kind of thing. Like for that to be sustainable. So for you to kind of have that transition of, working with one kid to a couple more to a couple more, and then now you've got a steady book of business. At what point did you realize like, okay, let's make this a business and like, because do you have a background in any kind of business study at Marquette
No,
or anything like that?
no,
No.
no. It was whatever I can get at Marquette. It was comm studies, so
Mhm.
broadcast, advertising, and
It's
marketing.
us
Yeah.
Yeah,
talking to two com guys here. We feel you.
yeah, which was great.
Yeah.
Public speaking was my first class,
Yeah.
so all the things that I learned at Marquette, it was now that I stopped playing, now that's when it was going to help me the most. So,
Mhm.
I didn't have a background in any of that. It was more so just a field. My wife, she was doing a lot of the flyers, the marketing, and it just started building. So when 2018 came, we had about 50 clients. But a lot of those kids were fourth, fifth graders. And those parents were asking, hey, do you want to start an AAU program? And it was easy for me to say yes, because it was the kids that I was already training. It wasn't kids that was going to come from everywhere. So in that moment, it became very clear this is what I can do. I had two boys teams and two girls teams.
Mhm.
Um, and it kind of grew from there. Then in year one, we had 4 teams. Year two, we had 20. Year three, we had about 35. Year four, we had about 45. And it just keeps growing from there. So we're going into year 7 now, and we have over 100 teams.
That's
Wow.
incredible,
That's
Joe.
amazing.
Wow. Is
Yeah,
it really, do you find it being organic, like within
it
people are
is.
having great experience? And I mean, I can imagine this circle is pretty connected when you start getting to know all these coaches. Is that a big
Yeah,
part of it too?
yeah, it's a big part of it. And people
Yeah.
know you, and they send your kids here. We got
Yeah.
Travis Dean as one of our coaches. We got Steve Novak as one of our coaches. We do summer camp. We do leagues, training. We do one-on-ones. We do a little bit of everything. So it's a big business once you know how to do it and you do it the right way and people trust you. Wojo's kids plays for us. It's all the coaches' kids are in our program, and it's just a testament to our hard work and the people we have around us.
Awesome. Now,
I think
my
I
question
think
is,
Jim and I just signed up for we're just
yeah,
signed up for a camp. Both of
can you
us are gonna
use,
just show up.
do you have space for two 33-year-olds who are kind of out of shape but still have some grit left? Is that, is
Yeah,
that, is that something we can do?
yeah, we can figure it out. We'll get you guys going.
There you
I'm just
go.
saying,
I got a good jump shot.
42
I do.
seconds in one game in eighth grade. 42 seconds. I think I recorded 2 points. So, I mean, the
He,
efficiency though.
he
42
scored on
Yeah,
the
seconds in a
opponent's.
point.
He scored on the opponent's basket, which is something he won't say. No one really guarded. That's fine. No, that's awesome. Well, Joe, this has been terrific, man. And I guess my final question for you is, what was your favorite non-basketball memory of college?
non-basketball memory. It has to be it's a couple things. Non-basketball. Let me see. But
I
it
know
is
what the
back.
basketball one is. I can imagine.
It is back related. Just seeing all the fans when we
Oh,
came, on campus. They were all outside. It was like you're a rock star group, like you're part of Queen or something.
yeah.
Uh, we came back and we had police escorts from the airport to back to campus to the old gym, and just the amount of people that was outside to greet us um, was just amazing, you know. And in one of those tournaments, it was also the Badger fans cheering for us,
There you go.
because they just lost to Kentucky. So to see Badger fans standing up cheering for us was a sight to see from my own eyes. You don't see that a lot, but those are the coolest moments that I say from college. Obviously, the camaraderie with the guys in a locker room, that's the stuff you miss the most. To the togetherness, the things that you do, off the court, the video games and beer pong and all that cool stuff. That's the stuff that you miss that's off the court. But
Yeah.
those are the memories that you cherish. and you bring to the next generation of kids that are now coming through the door now.
It's awesome.
For sure. All right, I got two short questions for you here.
Yeah.
One, if you had if there's a future athlete that's watching this that wants to make a career in or around basketball and something, what is one lesson that your kind of journey has taught you about, making this feasible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the twos that I always tell kids is don't let basketball use you. Use basketball, because it's going to stop at some point. So the life lessons that you learn on the journey, and the people that's a part of your village, really learn from them. And I always truly believe that God puts people in our lives for a reason. So use every teacher, every coach, every superintendent, or all the connections that you're making. Use that to your advantage as you're playing the game of basketball. So that's what happened with me, just learning, eye contact, learning how to say please and thank you, learning people's names that you just meet. That's the stuff that brings people through the door.
Okay. And then the second one is if people want to get in touch with the Chapman Basketball Academy, learn a little bit more about what you're doing. Where's the best place to go and do that at?
Yeah, you can Google us at Joe Chapman or Chapman Basketball Academy. We have our own email, our own website, chapmanbasketball.com, where we update it every day with different things that we're doing from K5 all the way up to U17, U18 players. So every day we offer something for everyone.
There we go. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Joe. We really do appreciate it. And if you guys are checking this show out for the first time, thank you for doing that, or the 76th time. We are the Hustling Sideways podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can also find us. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Instagram. We're on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn now. We are all over the place. So you can follow us at Hustling Sideways. We also have an email. You can drop us a line. It's hustlingsideways@gmail.com if you want to be a guest on this show. And Jim,
Keep on hustling.
we'll see you next
See you
time.
next time.